Hello, thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Victor Minces, and I'm a researcher at the University of California in San Diego, where I do many things, and these days they are mostly related to the science of music. First, I want to tell you a little bit about my story, because I know you're in a situation in your life that you're probably wondering where you're going to go, what you will study, what will you work on, and I have a very winding path. I always loved science and I always loved art as I was a little kid. But then when I got in high school, my my science teachers were so bad that I started hating science. By the time I finished high school, I didn't want to do anything with science. I signed up for fine arts. And I studied fine arts for 2 years and I loved it. I still do. I still paint. I wanted to become a painter back then. And I started feeling that I needed some different mental challenge that the School of Fine Arts was not giving me. So I signed up for courses in physics at the University of Buenos Aires. And I was blessed by the fact that in Argentina, if you want to go to college, you just sign up and go, and it's free, and there's no exam. So it was just a playful thing for me. But then when I started taking physics courses, I totally fell in love um, with the math, uh, with this model of the world that you learn when you study physics, and also with the people that I met there, because I met a really, really wonderful bunch. Um, and I got more and more and more into it. And through physics, I started becoming interested in the brain, which you think it might have nothing to do, but actually, with physics, you can study many, many things because physics is learning how to model the reality with mathematical models. And the brain is part of that reality. So you can actually learn a lot about the brain by simulating brains in a computer, for example. So I started getting into the neuroscience part of physics, or the physics part of neuroscience. And I ended up coming to UCSD to get my graduate degree in computational neuroscience. And it was a really interesting experience. I have to tell you that getting a graduate degree after college is not like taking more courses. It's more like having a job. You do take some courses that are foundational that you will need, but it's mostly going to the lab and trying to answer a question that nobody else has an answer for. So it's actually really, really exciting. You don't make much money, but it is a job, and you get to be the person that discovers something. It will usually be something tiny. It won't be revolutionary, but you will be the person that discovers it, and you will be the person that knows the most in the world about one single thing. So what I was interested in, and I still am, is sensory processing. How does the brain models the world? When I see you, when I hear you, there are things happening. When I hear, there's things happening like around here in my brain. There's like neurons firing. So I was like, how does the firing of neurons relate to what an animal is hearing? And it was really interesting work. And I did it for a few years. And when I was graduating, I felt like I wanted to do something that was a little more applied, that I could see a larger effect in our everyday lives, that I could influence society a bit more directly. So my mentor Andrea Chiva suggested that I start studying the science of music. In particular, what happens with the behavior of a person and in the brain of a person when that person learns music. For example, if that person can pay attention better once they're used to pay attention to music through playing music, and to synchronize in time with other people when they play drums together, for example. So I started doing that, and I really loved it. It's really interesting work, and I still do a little bit of that too. But through doing that, I started. I was working in schools, and I sort of wanted to give back a little bit to the schools and to the students because they were giving us their times as subjects. So I started going to the schools, teaching the students a little bit about the science of music. And when the students learn about the science of music, their eyes were like, whoa! And it was a very rewarding experience for me. And at some point, I realized that that had been the best that I had done in my whole career. So I wanted to turn that into my job. So I started doing it more and more, and then applied for a grant for the National Science Foundation, which was awarded to me, and now it is my job. So I do have my dream job, and my dream job is bringing these science of music experiences to the classrooms. And it's a dream job for many reasons. One reason is that I could see a direct effect of what I'm doing in how people react. I think I'm making the everyday life of a bunch of kids that have this experience so much better. But it also allows me to connect with this part of me, which is still very interested in art. And I'm still doing a lot of art, and a lot of that is sound art and combining using the science to make sound art. And I really love it. I will show you a video of a typical day in a school, or actually a typical experience. The experience takes a few classes. So I will show you a video that sort of shows you the kind of stuff that I was doing in schools back then. I want you to make a mark at half of the pipe. So you can see that in this experience, I went to the schools, and together with the students, we use a sound editor to record sound and transform it and create sound compositions. And that way we learn, or the students learn, about waveforms. What is sound? How is sound recorded? Then I brought a bunch of crazy things from home that make crazy sounds that I love. I'm a sound freak myself, so I do enjoy these things a lot. And I show the students how they work, for example, a musical saw, and then I let the students explore them. So that's why I call it the sound circus. It's more like a sound petting. Then we learn how pipes vibrate, how objects vibrate, and we use that knowledge to create musical instruments, cutting pipes at different lengths, so they match a note that we were looking for. It was really, really beautiful. Now, this was not only an outreach experience, it was also a research project. I'm still a researcher. And the goal of the goal of the research was seeing if this is a good way for people to study science. And that doesn't mean only if they learn more. It also means that if they like it more, if they get more engaged with science after they participate, if they think that science should be studied like that. When I was a teenager, I really, really wish that there was something that came to my school and did what I am doing now. And that's part of the reason that I'm doing it. I don't want other teenagers to have the same horrible high school experience that I did. Now, for the research, we asked the students a few questions before participating in the program and after participating in the program. And we found that, as we expected, their attitudes towards science had changed. For example, they were more likely to say that they were good at science. They were more likely to say that they were interested in pursuing a science or engineering career. And they also more likely to say that they really, really enjoy science during this experience. I think we're proving that yes, this is a great way to study science. And my goal in the next years is to bring these experiences to schools as much as possible. Now, I have a big problem with that, which is that there's only one of me, and I can only go to so many schools. And through my grant and through my work, I want to make a larger impact in society. So how do I do that? How do I scale up these experiences? This is particularly important now that people is locked at home, and if it was hard for me to go to all the schools, it would be even harder to go to each person's homes and show them these things. So the way around that is to scale up through web applications. So you saw that in the video that I showed you, for example, we were using a sound editor. So what I did is create a web application that sort of mimics that sound editor, but in a way it's actually easier to use. But not only that, you can just log into my website, listeningtowaves.com, and go to the sound exploration tab and just start using it. But before I go into that, I want to make a little experiment with you for us to see what sound is. So I want you to grab your throat like this. You're probably not doing it, I know, but you can do it someday, even if it's not right now. Go like, you're probably feeling the vibration in your hand. Why do you feel that vibration? It's because your vocal cords are vibrating. Now your vocal cords are vibrating, and that creates sound. Now there comes a second experiment. I'm gonna take a piece of paper and I will put it in front of my mouth without touching, like this, and I will say really loud. So if you do that, you will realize that you also feel your fingers vibrating. And you feel your fingers vibrating even though you were not touching your throat. So how come you grab a piece of paper and then say, and you feel your fingers vibrate? That's because the piece of paper is vibrating. Why is the piece of paper vibrating? Because the air is pushing the piece of paper back and forth. So a vibration in your throat creates a vibration in the air. You make the air like and that makes the piece of paper vibrate like this. It goes back and forth. And then that gets transmitted to your fingers. So sound is a vibration. It's a vibration that travels through the air, and actually the whole air is vibrating. Now, I will show you now one of the web applications, and it's related to how we capture sound. How do we measure it? And it's called an oscilloscope. When I first saw this an oscilloscope as a physics student, it really, really blew my mind. And back then it was an expensive piece of equipment, but now we can make it online. And I would say my team created the first really functional oscilloscope that works completely online. Okay, so we will go to my website, which is listeningtowaves.com. And then we will go to the sound exploration tab, oscilloscope. And I will click on the oscilloscope. Okay, so here's the oscilloscope for you. And you probably have seen something like this before, sort of. I will hit record. And now we have to allow the microphone. If you want to use it, you have to allow the computer to use your microphone. Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you probably saw this before. It's in a few phone applications. It's something that you can see that it grows when you make a sound, okay? But what is this? What is it showing you? Yes, it's showing you sound, but what exactly? Now, let's see how much time we are seeing. You can see that as time passes, the signal moves to the right, okay? How much time we are seeing in the screen? You see that there's a bar here that says 1 second. That means that in this whole screen, we're seeing probably something like 5 seconds roll by. Now, we will do something that is called zooming in. We will zoom in, but not in an image. We will zoom in time. We will get into this graph and look at more and more and more closely. So for this, we use the zoom button. So now, probably you see that the image is rolling faster. Now you see only like 2 seconds in the screen. Let's keep zooming in. Now things are starting to look a little different and go faster as well. Now let's keep zooming in. Zoom in a little more. So things look really, really, really different when you're looking at them in a small time scale. Now, what is that thing that is moving back and forth? And I will stop sharing for a little bit. What is that thing that is moving back and forth, that line that is moving up and down? Well, that is really representing the microphone. Inside the microphone, there is a membrane, just like this piece of paper that was vibrating when I yelled into it. Now that membrane in the microphone is vibrating, and that vibration is being converted into electricity, and that's what's being recorded in the oscilloscope. Now, I transformed this oscilloscope a little bit to make it more playful. So we created a tool that is also very unique online, and it's kind of a very simple sound editor. So I will share the screen again. What do I mean by a sound editor? Let me zoom out again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I zoomed out again. Now, this is measuring sound, and it's also recording the sound that is measuring. For example, if I clap, I see this big spike here, and then I can select what I recorded and play it back. Let's see. For example, if I clap, interesting. Now, I can play with this actually. Let's see what happens if I loop this. I will play a loop. For example, if I clap. 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 So that feels like a repeating phrase, right? Now, that's because the loop is really long. It's longer than your typical rhythm. Now we will explore a little bit the relationship between how fast things repeat and the sensation that they cause us. And I would say it's a physical sensation and it's also a musical sensation. So let's see. I will repeat it and then I will start to make the loop shorter and shorter. For example, if I clap. 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 For example, if I for example, if I for example, 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 for example. So maybe you feel now that this feels a little bit more like a rhythm, right? Now let's see what happens if I make it even shorter. For example, 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 for example. It's more of an upbeat rhythm, right? Let me zoom in a little bit more, a little bit more. Let's see. For example, 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 is it still a rhythm? I don't know. I think it's turning more into a buzz. Let's keep zooming in and let's repeat it again. So you see that when things repeat at a very, very, very short time scale, they are not a rhythm anymore, they're not a buzz anymore, they start having a pitch. Let's see, I'll create a little loop. If I clap, if I clap, and now I will loop it again. If I clap, 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 if I clap. So you see that you can create sort of sound textures or musical textures, and you can also add layers of sound. For example, you can create a loop and then sing on top. And I am sorry, my singing or my whistling are both terrible, but I just want to show you how the kind of things that you can do. If I clap, if I clap, if I clap, I clap, 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 clap. Let's see what I did. Clap, 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 clap. So you see that with this tool, you can use this tool to understand sound, and you can also use it to play with sound, and you can do other things that I wasn't able to show you. There's other tools on my website. I don't want to take all your time. The tools are really beautiful, especially if you like music. You can really use the tools to understand what music is, what's a musical scale. And I invite you to check them out on my website. Also, through my website, you will be able to shoot me an email if you have any questions. Okay? It was really a pleasure to be here. I hope this was not too noisy. I hope you enjoyed it and you understood a little bit about it. And regarding your life choices, I think my life is an example that You don't need to decide right now. It's not, I mean, you have to decide what you will do next year, but your life can take you in very, very unexpected ways. I had no idea that someday I would be able to combine my love for science and my love for music and my love for serving society. So I hope that serves as an inspiration. Thank you very much.